Emperor Alistair VII inherited a grand and prosperous empire due to his father's adept rule, especially considering what transpired in the latter part of his rule, focusing on business and the like. Unlike his father, Emperor Alistair VII had no issue in fathering a son, doing so in 1341 the moment he married his wife. In 1348, the crusade for Abyssinia was a success. By 1349, due to his exceptionally peaceful rule, Emperor Alistair VII gained the title of the Blessed. Alistair the Blessed adeptly handled the occasional Lollard revolt and generally maintained the realm with utmost skill. In 1350, however, as though out of a lust for war, the court faction waged a revolt to lower the crown authority more than it had ever been lowered, essentially giving the High Lords of Vannin complete control over their land. This revolt was the sixth revolt to lower the crown authority organized by the same faction, and as such these rebels were known as Sixers, a name that would later stick for those who fought for the devolution of monarchical power to the nobility. Despite the emperor's calm nature and sleepy disposition, often attributed to his Mediterranean mother, this revolt was regardless met with great fury. The traitorous curs raised over 90,000 men to Vannonia's 60,000, determined to upend the monarchy in all but name, wishing to install a puppet that an aristocratic oligarchy could make dance as they pleased. They struck at the right time as well, seeing as disease had been ravaging the proud ranks of the emperor's fighting men. Alistair the Blessed raised the greatest host of mercenaries in history, numbering at 61,000, and used them to help fight the greedy cowards of the Revolt League. The first battle was fought at Strathanan with the army of Vannin knights against the rebel main forces. Despite being evenly matched, the Sixers broke and ran, leaving the Knights of Vannin free to lay ruthless siege to those who dared to rebel. In 1351, during a battle in Galgaidel where the rebels attacked the Knights of Vannin from the north, Alistair the Blessed fought and killed Torquil the Wicked, leader of the revolt, in single combat. As the cold, righteous steel sank into his fattened flesh, the wretched Sixth Revolt died with him, though the ideology of the Sixers lived on around the crowded tables of the aristocracy. Thousands of ducats were spent on one revolt, and so the virtues of amassing wealth that his father espoused near the end of his life came to be the salvation of Vannin. It is because of this that Alistair the Blessed decided to give up hunting and become a man of business. This would be short-lived, however. On the 15th of April, 1361, Emperor Alistair VII Monad, called the Blessed, went to the Lord at the age of 34 after falling victim to diphtheria. His firstborn son, Emperor Alistair VIII Monad, ascended to the throne at the age of 19. He was not well liked upon his ascension, seen as a frail, spoiled, brooding boy forced to fill the shoes of his father. As a result of his life of pleasure until that point, he was not as good of a warrior or a businessman, and nowhere near the diplomat that his father was. He was smart, however, and made the decision to marry a woman who was well liked and would bear him strong children despite being 17 years his senior. This woman was Empress Agnes. She was a genius and one of the few influential queens of Vannin. Coming from a noble German family hailing from the Principality of Arlon, she knew exactly how to act in court and quickly gained the favor of those among her. Indeed, it seemed from the beginning that Alistair VIII would rule from beneath the folds of her skirt, as it were, leaving everything to her authority, showing his face only when he absolutely needed to. To be clear, Agnes did not hold any official power, given that women could not rule in Vannin, but instead, she wielded her husband's power, which for them was a perfectly agreeable arrangement. This did not change the fact, however, that two factions were rallying dangerous amounts of men for possible revolts, as they saw an opportunity in the strangeness of the royal couple. One was a Sixer revolt to lower crown authority, and the other was to put the Emperor's distant cousin on the throne, an Occitan subject named Niall Pizar Monad. Needless to say, these would be trying times for the crown. In 1362, rumors of a new Khan in the east reached Vannonia. They called him Timur the Lame, and he seemed less likely to settle down like Genghis did, given how he leveled cities and erased them from the map to be swallowed by the shifting sands. In 1364, due to his refusal to rise to his title, Emperor Alistair VIII earned the unenviable moniker of the Unready. In 1365, after Empress Agnes had given Alistair the Unready a son, directed the spy master in 5 separate and successful assassination attempts to avoid the 2 brewing revolts, founded the Messengers Guild to standardize and expedite communication across the empire, and renovated the Church of St. Guthlac, she died of pneumonia at the age of 41. The Emperor was heartbroken, and swore to make himself a better man in her memory, perhaps because he knew he had no other choice. In 1368, the 7th Revolt League was declared to lower the crown authority by the Sixers, mainly seeking revenge for how handily his late wife had bested them. Emperor Alistair the Unready split his army of 90,000 men into thirds and sent the largest force to the north, the second largest to the south, and the smallest to the west. In the north, the rebels hid in the mountains, and as a result were able to repel 60,000 men. The Sixers' mistake was made when they descended to invade and went into open land, thinking that they had bested the crown. The once repelled force chased them south, and a force of 20,000 already waiting there cut them off, outflanking them and resulting in their swift destruction. With the 3 parts of the Emperor's army now reunited, they marched south to deal with their secondary force of 31,000 men. These castabouts were summarily defeated, and the leader of their revolt, Somerled, had the gall to offer a white peace. Emperor Alistair the Unready declined his offer, determined to punish those who would defy his rule and make an example of them. In 1369, the French declared war upon the revolt itself in order to conquer territories which were theirs long ago along the French coast. Knowing this, the revolt needed to be put down with a renewed urgency. After a few months of relentless siege, which included the pitching of leprous corpses over the walls, the enemies accepted the terms of surrender and the 7th Revolt League died, while Somerled literally died, hanged from the precipice of his castle above the gate that failed to keep the Emperor out. Pope Coelestinus II demanded that the Emperor release one of the conspirators because he was a bishop. Emperor Alistair the Unready did so, but began a plot to kill him immediately afterwards. A game of cat and mouse ensued. The bishop caught wind of the plot and foiled a few attempts, but Dubgal the Wicked was ultimately killed by way of venomous snake, though not before he revealed Alistair's complicity in the plot to the entire court. This would deeply harm his relations with the church, and many thought he was beginning to court excommunication. It was around this time that Emperor Alistair the Unready got to writing, and this was indeed something he was good at, having done little else than pen poetry while his wife was alive. Among his tracts were ones criticizing the celibacy of the clergy, the corruption among higher clergy whom he said were akin to a den of thieves, the idea of purgatory, the process of sainthood, the nascent right of indulgence, and even the infallibility of the Pope. The Pope threatened to excommunicate him at that last piece, so the Emperor decided to no longer make his works public.